Lights, camera, action. It is time for yet another episode of Takaro Kids. We are here to give you a quick understanding of what's happening around the world. And we have 2 or 3 different stories to cover this time, right, Debbie?
That's right. We have three different stories from around the world. We didn't want to talk about that war that's going on in Iran still. There's lots still going on.
Still going
there.
on.
Yeah, it's still going on, and we are keeping an eye on that. But for this episode, we thought we'll talk about something different, something else, something really, really important, and something that all of us, it impacts all of us, people listening here, Kiran, you, as well as for me, because we have kids. This particular story is from the US, and it is about Meta and YouTube. Meta owns Instagram,
Well,
YouTube
Meta
as well.
owns Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, all of that.
And it's a very, very important lawsuit that was actually filed against these companies. It was by a 20-year-old woman who basically started using YouTube when she was just, I think, 6 years old. And she started using Instagram when she was around 9 years old. And basically, the whole thing was that she claims that these platforms have been designed to make social media so addictive that it affected her mental health and made her very sick.
She's obviously won the case, and that's why it's become a big thing, because it is for the first time ever that social media companies have been found guilty of causing addiction.
Yeah.
Right? Very often you would think about addiction, and the cases in the past have been about addiction to things like cigarettes and different kind of drugs and medicines and those kind of things. But social media, it's the first time ever. I think it's very interesting because we're seeing a lot of countries, states, different parts of the world thinking about banning social media for children, fundamentally because of this fear that it's going to, disrupt the way they think. It's going to cause them a lot of anxiety. So it's a very landmark ruling. It's a landmark ruling because it's never happened before. First time ever. And Meta and, YouTube or / Google, who owns YouTube, or rather Alphabet, which is the company that owns Google and YouTube and all of them, they both said that they will be appealing the verdict. So they will be going back to court and saying, hey, this doesn't make sense. Because just this one case win basically means that anyone else can potentially file a lawsuit against these companies, right? Saying, hey, you got me addicted, you got my children addicted, you got so-and-so addicted. And that kind of becomes a big sort of problem for these companies.
Yeah, I think while it could open up the floodgates in terms of more lawsuits against them, with more people claiming that, they were harmed or hurt because they got so addicted to these platforms, what I hope they will do is fix the system. Because we know, and I think one of the way they built this case, they found internal documents where they were talking about how can we get more people onto our platform? How can we get more young people, tweens, like, before they're teenagers, really young kids onto our platform and keep them there, right? They have built it in that way. There are scientists and researchers studying the human mind and human behavior and trying to figure out, hey, how do I keep you here? So, which is why when your parents are telling you, get off the screen, it's really hard for you. And it's hard for us too. It's hard for us adults to look away
even
from
for
the
us
screen.
parents, right? There's that point of addiction. How long will you be scrolling on Instagram or on Facebook or on, whatever it may be? And I think that kind of becomes the big problem that you want to address over here. And like you said, these companies are also creating these apps with specific features which make you just want to go further and further. A few years ago, Instagram, or I guess Facebook, I'm not a big Facebook user, but on Instagram, for example, it used to be photos. Suddenly, a couple of years ago, it started moving to videos, and videos became the big thing. And now if you scroll Instagram, you will see just video after video, very little photos.
Yeah.
Because videos are more addictive. It keeps you engaged. It keeps moving. So there's a lot of this science. Yeah,
even
it
on
autoplays.
YouTube.
Yeah.
So
there's a lot of this science in which is perhaps, great for the company because they get more users, they get more usage.
They can feed you more ads.
They can exactly get more revenue from advertising. But what does it do for our brain, and especially for the young brain? How does it stimulate, overstimulate? That kind of becomes the question. So it's an interesting case. It's an interesting win, which is crazy. I would have never expected it, but yeah, I'm not sure because I think their whole point is also the fact that hey, we have this platform. No one asked you as a 9-year-old to come in, you know, get onto it. That's their thought process as well, but that's just an easy way
Yeah,
out.
but ultimately you do want a 9-year-old. And if you want
You do,
young people on your
yeah.
platform, then you have to make sure that the platform is safe, right? I think that's the responsibility then comes down to that. If you can spend a lot of money on making people stay on your platform, can you also make it safe? I think that's an important debate to have in this case in particular. This judgment has encouraged more and more people to debate and talk about how this can be made safe. Or a lot of, like you said, countries are talking about it. Karnataka, for example, has talked about it. I know Maharashtra is also talking about, having a conversation about whether we should ban social media for young people or not, people below the age of 13 or not, or actually 16 even. So, yeah, I think this is good. Everything that we consume, we need to be careful about.
On.
On that note, I have to
Mm.
talk about another story which is connected to social media, believe it or not. It's about a
Really?
new
Okay.
leader who's elected right next door in a country called Nepal, which is to the north, right? You know where Nepal is? Just look at the India map. You look at the
Northeast.
top, exactly, northeast, and you will find Nepal right there.
Very often, most people, misunderstand or are not sure. They think that Mount Everest is in India, but it's not. It's actually in Nepal.
Yes, that's right. Nepal is home to the
Yeah.
tallest mountain in the world. And Nepal's new prime minister is also a very, very interesting character. His name is Balendra Shah. He's only 35 years old. So he's Nepal, the youngest prime minister.
He
Right?
is so young. He's younger than me.
Yeah. A lot of people are younger than us, Kiran. A lot of people are younger than us. But yes, so that is one thing. And also, he's got a very special skill. He is a rapper. He's a rap artist.
So cool. He was actually a structural engineer. So his education was in engineering. He rose to fame as a rap artist and then he joined politics. In fact, a lot of his rap songs were very political. Like, I think there's one anthem in particular which became really big, right, in Nepal?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what I was talking about. His rise to fame and success is linked to YouTube, believe it or not. Because there was one song. So Nepal had a lot of protests going on. We've talked about this in the past, actually.
Yeah.
There were a lot of youth-led protests in the country because they were not happy with the way the government was running things. They were not happy with the fact that there was a lot of corruption and young people were not getting the opportunities that they should be. So this one particular song called Nepal Haseko, which means Nepal Smiling, got 11 million YouTube views during this time when these protests were going on, and actually made him like the figurehead or the leader, kind of propelled him to become the leader of this entire youth-led protest movement. And after that, slowly, he started becoming more and more popular. And today, he's now the prime minister of the country.
That's pretty awesome. A rapper as a prime minister. Imagine his speeches. They'll be so entertaining.
He's using his skills for the greater good, one can hope.
That's pretty awesome.
Now we are going to go on to another story, completely pivoting away from politics and YouTube. This story particularly is interesting because it's science, but it's got everything to do with dogs.
Doggies. And I think we've always known doggies as man's best friend. And we've always assumed that, they were tamed and became our best friends. I don't know, 1,000 years ago or something like that? Was that what the original assumption was?
People used to think 10,000 years ago. Okay, let's put it like that. People thought the dogs became man's best friends 10,000 years ago, but now latest evidence has found that it was actually 5,000 years even before that. So 15,000 years ago.
15,000 years
Yes.
ago, they were man's best friend. So this
Exactly.
relationship has been 15,000 years in the making. That's amazing.
No wonder it's so special, right? No wonder your dog, if you have a dog, if you know dogs and met them, then they know you so well, right? They look into your eyes and you think that they know your whole story and they can understand you so well. That's because they have had, like, over the years, perfected that art. They've been man's best friend. Now, this particular, how did they find this out? Well, there were a lot of scientists from 17 different institutions. Okay, so a lot of people working very hard to figure this story out as well. And they basically found remains of dogs in a place in England as well as a place in Turkey where they found dog bones. People used to believe that, maybe it was wolves that were, behaving like man's best friend back many, many years ago. But it turns out domesticated dogs. So dogs are not the same as wolves. They come from wolves, but they're different. These domesticated dogs, which are closer to today's boxers, or if you've heard of a breed called Salukis, right? They exist today. So these domesticated dogs are closer to the modern day pets that we have than they are to the wolves of prehistoric times.
So dogs are 15,000 years ago. When was our relationship with cats, I wonder? Because even like the Egyptians and, we know it's dating many thousands of years again with mummies and pharaohs and all that. Cats were like their biggest sort of pet. So it'll be interesting. Maybe y'all can find out and let us know, when did the human-cat relationship start? Human-dog relationship started 15,000 years ago. Who was first?
I think that's, or let's reframe it. When did cats domesticated humans? Because I think that's the way cats usually treat their human friends, right?
Sticking to, animals and the animal kingdom, there was another very cool story that happened just a couple of days ago, which I thought will be very cool to cover. Is there was a whale in a small little coastal city of Germany that got stuck on a sandbank. And what's a sandbank? I'm sure many of you have seen this. You go into a beach town. There's the ocean. There are the waves coming to you at the beach. But then you look a little further ahead and you'll suddenly see sand. There's a small little patch of sand suddenly after you see the waves. This humpback whale came in, got stuck on the sandbank, was stuck over there for a while. They first spotted it on, Monday, which was on the 23rd of March. Obviously, then people started coming together, trying to see how they could free the humpback whale. And this humpback whale is about 40 to 50 feet long.
Wow, that's huge.
Yeah.
And heavy, I'm sure, as well.
And super heavy. Most of us are, between 5 feet and 6 feet. So this is 10 of us. Like, that's how long it is. And, that's how big it is. They tried freeing it. There were people who actually started creating a ridge so that, it could kind of flow through the ridge, almost like a water slide, if you can think about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like a water slide from the sandbank into the deeper waters. There were 2 diggers that were deployed on Thursday to dredge that channel into deeper waters. And then finally, by Thursday evening, the humpback kind of managed to wiggle itself and move and get strength back and then kind of get out. That's 2 or 3 days, which is pretty crazy for a humpback whale.
That is. In fact, it's very, very dangerous for whales to get stuck on the beach because, whales are water creatures. They need to be in the water. If they get stuck for too long, they often die because of dehydration or, their blowhole gets, so how whales breathe. They breathe through their blowhole. If the blowhole gets covered with sand or with water and they cannot wiggle and they cannot swim away, a lot of things can happen if the whale is stuck. You cannot just push a whale back into the ocean. Like we said, they're too heavy, too big. As much as you can try, you will not be able to budge the whale.
Yeah, but it's still not out of, danger because it has to get into the big open Baltic Sea, into the wider Baltic Sea. So they actually have a couple of boats, Coast Guard boats, escorting this whale now. And they tried fitting a tracker to its skin, but because it was in such a bad condition, after having been baked in the sun maybe for like 2 or 3 days, they couldn't do that. And in fact, they also saw that there was a piece of netting apparently lodged in its mouth. So again, not the best state it's in, but actually very glad that he finally escaped.
This reminds me of a book that I don't know, many of you might have read or might not have read. It's a very cute book written by Julia Donaldson called The Snail and the Whale. If you've read it, let us know. And let us know what you think of the story. But yeah, it's about a snail
I've read
who
it
does
for my
exactly
kids.
the same thing. Yeah. And there's a whale that gets stuck and the snail saves its life. On that note, we are going to move in to our favorite part of the episode, which is our quiz question for this week. Right? And it's connected to the story above that we just told you. The question is, Okay, and you might think it's a little unfair because it's kind of before your time, but feel free to ask your parents for the correct answer. In fact, I would urge you, definitely ask your parents for this answer. You don't have to look it up. What is that famous movie about a killer whale who was released from captivity back into the ocean by a little boy?
Iconic movie. I mean, it was such a big movie in the 90s or 2000s. I'm going to say sometime at that point. And, also a tearjerker to an extent because you kind of feel for this killer whale who's captured. And then, you finally see it go and get free. What are the options, Debbie?
The options are, and these options were put together by Kiran, by the way. I will just put a disclaimer out to that. These are not my choices. This was all Kiran. Option 1, is it Free Billy? Option 2, is it Free Willy? Option 3, is it Jaws? And option 4, is it Julia and the Whale? Yeah?
I think they're great. They're amazing options.
Very proud of yourself?
Please.
Good.
Please check with your parents if they know what the answer is and they can help you with this. The right answer gets put into a lucky draw. Send in your right answer to takarokids.com or on our Instagram, DM us with your parents' accounts. Ask them to DM us. Don't please take their accounts and do it.
Stay out of social media if you can.
Stay out of social media if you can. The lucky winner need not be the first person, need not be the last person, need not be the 100th time that you're sending in the answer. The lucky winner will basically get a gift certificate and other goodies. So make sure you know what the answer is. Free Billy, Free Willy, Jaws, or Julia and the Whale.
I'm waiting to see what the answers are. I hope there are some fun ones there. That brings us to the end of this episode, but we are not going to go without announcing our winner from last week's episode's quiz question. That was also a fun one. It was a very stinky one. It was about a gas that smells like rotten eggs. Which gas is this? That really, really stinks. Options were nitrogen, sulfur, helium, and carbon monoxide. And the correct answer is...
Helium, no?
Yeah.
No, the correct answer is sulfur.
Very good. Sulfur it is. And there's a planet that smells like sulfur, that smells of rotten eggs, right? That's the story that we covered. And the winner for last week's episode is Ritika Ghosh. She's 10 years old and she's from Pune. Congratulations, Ritika. Well done.
Your gift certificate and your goodies are gonna get to you fairly soon. So watch out for that. And until next week, figure out the answers, speak to your parents, what's the name of the movie, and also
maybe watch it too.
Maybe watch it too. And tell us who has had a longer relationship with humans, dogs or cats.
Yes, I really want to know the answer to that one too.
Bye-bye.
On that note, bye-bye.